I'm putting up these recordings for three reasons. The first is to demonstrate how a phase coherent intensity difference recording sounds, and I'll explain what that is later. The second reason is to show the quality that was obtained from high quality magnetic tape reel-to-reel recorders that were around in the 60s and 70s. In this case, the machines used date from 1973. DBX1 code is used, so there is noise reduction. The machines used were two. The first was a Mark 6 Brenell machine with a parabolic tape path. This is an unusual machine, but it was highly valued by the BBC for post-production work. This was a bespoke machine that I ordered from Brenell in 1973. It's the 10.5-inch reel version, and it has been modified for my purposes as it has an extra playback head, and this machine can play back both 4-track and 2-track tapes. It records 2-track. The machine also has the Brenell tape link rather than the electronics that were issued with the Brenell Mark 6 it left the Brenell factory. The other modification is that this machine has been modified to run on 120 volts 60 hertz rather than 240 50 hertz. So this is equipped for the North American market. The other difference is that the electronics were modified for NAB equalization rather than the European CCIR equalization that was prevalent in those days. The machine is entirely mechanical. It's a 3-motor machine using PAPS motors for capstan and the reels. And it's an idler machine. Contains no servo feedback or any electronics controlling the deck other than switching and a big flywheel to keep the speed constant. The Revox A700, on the other hand, which dates from the same period, is also a 10.5-inch reel machine. It's a 2-track, and it's a much more modern machine in the fact that it uses IC circuitry in the electronics. The deck control and management is fully servo with a CPU controller controlling it all. The reason that I got two different machines was because I was concerned at that time with the complexity of the Revox machine, what its durability would be, and it has indeed given some issues over the years, including having to have a full control board replaced. The noise reduction unit is a DBX1. It's a DBX157. Now, the recording technique I'll explain now in some detail. Normally speaking, when one makes a recording, there's space microphones, either omni or cardioid, and spot mics all over the place, so that there's huge time path discrepancies from one microphone to the other. The classic intensity stereo technique is either two crossed cardioid microphones in proximity or two crossed figure-of-8 capsules, which is the Blumlein technique. Now, the microphone used for these recordings was the Neumann SM69 FET. This is a 2-capsule microphone, and the capsules use the capsules of the famous U87 Neumann microphones, but they're mounted so that they can rotate 180 degrees with respect to each other, one above the other. The microphone also comes with a control box that can control the polar response of both of the capsules, and they can be either fully cardioid, fully omnidirectional, partially cardioid, all the way to crossed figure-of-8. So if this microphone were used in classic Blumlein fashion, then the microphone capsules would be crossed at 90 degrees with one figure-of-8 lobe facing towards the left of the performers and the other capsule facing to the right of the performers. But in this case, a matrix MS technique was used, and what is done here is that the top capsule can be set omnidirectional or fully cardioid and everything in between. In this case, the capsule was set omnidirectional, and then the lower capsule was turned through 90 degrees such that the lobes, the in-phase lobe which faced to the left, faced the left side of the auditorium, and the other capsule faced the right, so that the null of the figure-of-8 was right towards the performers. The connections are as follows. You use 3 faders, and the omnidirectional microphone is on the center of the 3 faders, and the left-facing capsule, which is in phase with the omnidirectional capsule, is connected to the left fader in phase with the omnidirectional capsule. The right, on the other hand, which is out of phase, since it's a dual capsule microphone, so that's out of phase with the center capsule, and so it's connected to the right fader wired out of phase, so that the phase is then corrected, so it comes back into phase with the center capsule. The advantage of this technique is that in recordings for radio broadcast, which these were, a mono listener with a single speaker will only hear the omnidirectional capsule, so they have a perfect mono recording, and they do not hear the figure-of-8 capsule at all, which is cancelled. The other advantage is that it gives the recording engineer, in this case myself, some control over the width and depth of the recorded soundstage. These phase coherent intensity difference stereo recordings were made without any processing. The microphone was connected to the mixer, which then went to the DBX unit, which went to the recorders. No equalization was used at any time during recording, dubbing, and other cutting and processing. So what you're hearing is straight from the microphone. What you should notice is a very clear imaging and precise sound, especially if your speakers have minimal phase time shift situations occurring. In addition, because the out-of-phase information from the rear of the microphone is precisely time-aligned with the front, you will find that if you use algorithms like PLX2 Music, that you will have a recording that reproduces pretty much as well as any discrete recording. You will notice very good rear imaging from ambience and applause, etc., because the algorithm is able to take perfect advantage of the fact that the out-of-phase information is perfectly timed with the in-phase information. The 2 recorders were used, the Brenell MK for the first 2 numbers and the Revox A700 for the second, as master recorders. Both machines were used in editing. So the reason for the 2 machines is the length of time the tape runs. A 10.5-inch reel of Ampex master tape runs for only 30 minutes, and so you have to have 2 machines lined up to be able to pass from one to the other with overlap. The selections that I've chosen are from a concert given in May 1984 at Holy Family Catholic Church, Grand Forks, by the Grand Forks Master Chorale with an ad hoc orchestra under Terry Eder, who was a professor of choral studies at the UND School of Music at that time, and this was his last concert, and incidentally this is the last analog recording I made on location. subsequently I recorded the broadcasts digitally. The pieces selected was the first number on the concert, which is the Mozart Te Deum, and then I included F. Melius Christensen's Beautiful Saviour. F. Melius Christensen was a Norwegian immigrant who was professor of choral studies at St. Olaf College, Northfield, Minnesota, for 30 years, starting in 1901. This work of his is often performed in the upper Midwest and is well known to lots of people and much loved. The final selection is a couple of excerpts from the Bach Magnificat, which closed the concert. This is a work over 30 minutes in length, but I just selected the opening chorus, which is Magnificat, and then cut to the second to last chorus, which is Secet Locutus, which leads into Gloria Patri and closes the concert. You will notice that the dynamic range is very wide because, along with absence of any processing, no dynamic range compression whatever was used during this recording. And if you look at the bit meter and the other metering, which you'll be able to see in the video, you'll see that everything has been pushed to the limit. The original recorders were maximized for maximal dynamic range and signal to noise, as has the digital transfer. So I hope you enjoy these selections and see what your speakers make of them, so to speak.